All right, my friends, it's that time again to talk with our great friend Bob Kudla from Trade Genius and also tradewithlionel.com. Remember, tradewithlionel.com. That's the URL you are to use to both find yourself as an ignition switch, the HOV lane to riches and fame and glory, and where we get the credit. Bob Kudla, welcome, my friend. Let's get down to brass tacks. What should we know regarding this minefield of investing today?
We're in a really weird situation. So you notice the long bond, the 10 to 20 to 30, those auctions are essentially failing, meaning that they can't fail per se because somebody has to always buy the treasury bonds, but they're requiring higher and higher interest rates to attract borrowers. And not just the United States, but the Japanese bond market is also failing. Now, the Japanese bond market can fail, and so because they're not the reserve currency, but the United States, we could just print whatever we need to satisfy the debt obligation, just causes inflation. So it's a really weird situation because we had a balanced budget, a surplus in April. We're going to probably have a surplus in May as well, and now we have a situation where where they're trying to push the rates higher. And I think a lot of this is personally, I think most of it's political. They're trying to push. Well, they're trying to push Trump off the tariff. They're trying to push Trump off his budget, and then part of it is the $9 trillion refinancing that Janet Yellen. That landmine that Janet Yellen went ahead and put on Trump by just having short-term borrowing all of last year and just piled up massive amounts of refinancing requirements. On top of that, we have private refinancing coming due this year as well. So it's going to cause a lot of issues. And I'm looking at the market now. It could cause some shakeups here. The market looks like it's flat now, but yesterday it took a big hit on that failed auction. I don't know if there's another auction again today, but when interest rates keep rising up, it causes people to pull away from risk assets. And so the second part of the sell-off that we've been waiting for might be upon us.
Now, I know, Bob, that we don't normally look at this as a political show, but your political commentary is, I think, priceless. Let me give you a hypothetical. Assume that this president, not President Trump per se, but this president enlists your help, calls you and says, Bob, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing in view of the investor? And then we'll blend into what the investor should do using tradewithlionel.com, but also using your oversight, because that's what people really love, because you take what's going on in the news and you merge it with what's going on in the investment world. Because let's face it, most people hear about Janet Yellen and this and the Fed. They don't really understand it, but you explain it as you did right now perfectly. What would you advise the president, sir?
The president? I would. Well, he's kind of trapped here a little bit because Congress is the one that's actually putting this budget together right now. But I would probably hold firm on making sure the Doge cuts get put in there. Apparently, they're not in there at the moment, and so he's just going to run into a problem next year. But from an economic standpoint, I think what Trump needs to continue to do, just purely from a political point of view, is that he shifted money from illegal benefits to veteran benefits. Mm-hmm. And then he needs to, again, do some shifting around by creating economic, incentive zones in the states in which that he needs to shore up that are kind of purple, mm-hmm. And then he needs to just keep defunding the left, because that a lot of people here are really not realizing how much money was spent. Probably 70 to 80% of our debt was stolen from us through these NGOs, wherever this money went.
Right.
It's basically probably the biggest theft
absolutely
in mankind. And so he needs to keep pressing on that and then he needs to start pressing on the Federal Reserve and keep shaming them, and maybe just even threaten that, hey, look, if I can't refinance this debt, if you're going to make me pay through the nose, I'm just going to go to the Treasury and I'm going to conjure up $9 trillion of dollars, and I'm going to pay this debt off. And, let everybody start clamoring around whether it's legal for the United States president to do that versus some private banking organization. And I don't think they want that visibility. So that's kind of things I would take.
Good.
But, but look, we're in a no-win situation anymore. The debt now is becoming unmanageable around the world. So, back to trading is then, Bitcoin, oil, gold, anything that has hard assets is where you want your money, and you want to be then paying off the financial assets, like any debt that you have, and anything that's a financialized instrument is going to get crushed in a higher interest rate environment.
Now, right now, when someone goes to tradewithlionel.com and they want to be a part of this, because the thing that you can reiterate, irrespective, Bob, of the situation, the climate, the news, Wall Street, you react to everything, good, bad, up, down. You have a strategy. Explain that particular theory.
Yeah, so we really don't care what the market does per se. We only care that it moves enough for us to be able to take a profit. So what I mean by that, the market operates like a sine wave. And so the more volatile the market is, the bigger the sine wave is.
Mm-hmm.
And the tighter the frequency of that sine wave. Basically you're getting a lot of rate of change. And so we're what's called outside in traders. So we're looking to trade on those edges of the linear regression channels and with our momentum indicators. And then
that's easy for you to say.
We take those trades and then take a quick profit, holding it for 1 to 5 days, and then look for the next opportunity. The good news for our listeners and our clients is they don't have to know any of what I just said. We literally spell it out for you. We have an algorithm called the super histogram, and we basically say, see trade, take trade. We keep it that simple, and you just apply your normal risk management to it, how aggressive you want to be. And I put trades out there every day anyway. So no matter what level you buy our service, you're going to get access to that histogram. And then I also put trades out every day that you can follow along as you're trying to learn how to independently trade the system.
Do you find yourself, well, let me rephrase it. Do you find sometimes people understand that your political orientation tendency has nothing to do with your trading strategy? It doesn't really matter what you wish to be true, what you want to be true. You can be a left wing, right wing. This has nothing to do with what you're doing. This is not a Republican or a Democratic investment service. Because I think people are so partisan. Everything is partisan. This is neutral. This is bare bones. These are metrics. This is like reading an X-ray. You're just looking at the results. You don't really know why it's like this. You don't care. You just want to know what to do now. I don't think that point can be made enough.
Well, actually, stock markets do better under Democratic administration because they tend to spend the most money. And then they tend to suffer more under Republican administrations because that's when the reins get pulled back. So, if you just trade your political affiliation, you might as well become a Democrat, right? But I don't care. I mean, look, that's just that philosophy is just in general in life, right? Mm-hmm. Many things that, first of all, your opinion is meaningless to 99% of the world anyway.
Thank you very much.
Just your opinion. And so, people that tend to agree with you gravitate to you. People that tend to not agree with you, basically don't. So I don't worry too much about that. Good. And the more I get, the less my opinion I share. What I do share, though, is probabilities. And so I is Trump good or Trump bad? All I know is that the policies he's putting forward, high probability of success. In fact, the only probably high probability of success that we have, whether you like the guy or hate the guy, the medicine he's performing, pushing forward with is the only medicine you could take. I think the word was proffering. So anyway, but that's kind of where we are with that. I mean, obviously, unless they're ready to come up with a new monetary system and wipe the world's debt away, which,
Right.
There's a possibility out there, you still want to hold hard assets because they're going to have a harder time confiscating those than they will if you have money in your bank account.
Tell us something also, another observation that only you, Bob Kudla, would understand that maybe you think is not being grasped in the investment world, because I don't want to say this enough, and this is my opinion, maybe not yours, but if you really are serious about what you're doing, watching CNBC or watching quote financial shows is probably the worst thing you could possibly do. It's not a good idea, because their agenda, their intent is completely different. But what are some of the things that are going on right now that you think are interesting that most people don't know, for example, and work it into how it affects your trading strategy?
Well, I think the one thing that people are underestimating is the notion that Trump can reprice gold and take that repricing delta and put that into the Treasury for government spend, paying government bills or paying off debt or creating a sovereign wealth fund. I think that's totally been underestimated, and I think people are thinking that the bond market is hopelessly broken now. You're starting to see bond market failures everywhere, but the Federal Reserve can come in at any point and buy up every bond that's in existence. People don't kind of grasp that. Mm-hmm. That's QE, which would drive down the cost of borrowing. So it's just sitting out there waiting. But people, they get this notion. The reason why they're getting that is because the big money wants to get in those instruments as cheaply as they can. So they're trying to hustle everybody out of them so they can get the best price. So those are two things that I think people don't quite understand. And I think which would have a very high impact in terms of your portfolio if you were positioned correctly.
Now, a couple of things we always you've always been spot on, Bob, about predicting things that are going to happen, benchmarks that are going to be happening in the future, things that are happening like 6 months. Egg futures will collapse in August or whatever. By the way, eggs. Have you noticed how this has nothing to do with you, but one day it was eggs. Where are they? And then we just forgot about it. And then tariffs are wrong. Tariffs is crazy. And then we don't talk about it anymore. It just kind of goes away. So if you're trying to coordinate investment strategies with what you're reading in the news, you're an idiot, because the issues that project and fortify and propel information vectors in the media have nothing to do with hard currency, real world investment. Does that make any sense?
That is here too.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lionel.
And how you threw your voice like that. It's a talent many people have. You're a ventriloquist on the side, and sometimes he will do that. So please do not be alarmed. I do not adjust your set.
Well, I've only been doing this 12 years, and my wife will still just walk right in front of the camera.
Well, that's like, have you seen those YouTube pieces where the guy's talking and the wife came in with the kids and they're screaming? It's part of the team. Anyway, proceed.
Yeah, and dogs barking too. So I think the more shrill news you hear on, the more shrill the topic of the news is, the more likely it is that storm has passed. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, these TV shows are really entertainment shows with commercials, and CNBC is a commercial. Whatever those guys are on selling you is that they're selling it to you. So if they're telling you something is great, what they're really saying is that I need to push this to you, and you're going to be the sucker. And the same thing, if they tell you to sell something, it's because they want to buy it.
Right.
So that's the thing you have to really be aware of when you are watching those shows, is that the person on the other end of that mic is just like I'm selling to you right now. I want you to use Trade Genius, right? but at least I am transparent about it. Those
Well,
guys
of
are
course, right. That's called, and by the way, it's called tradewithlionel.com, which is the best way. I'm just going to say,
do the landing
no,
page.
I
You
understand.
understand my point? Yeah. So
Oh, I understand that.
that's what they, but they're not transparent about it. They're coming across as professorial, and the same with all the editorials you get on. They're pushing narratives, constantly pushing narratives to you.
Right.
So they're trying to mope you, right? What is that? Perception economics, right? You're trying to manage your thinking by, and that's why all the shows are echo chambers. They're like, well,
Right.
everybody's talking about it. It must be true. But I think, people are getting smarter and smarter about it now. And so that I think has less of an effect. There's the other really interesting thing, that I have observed that actually I learned it first from watching the trends in California. There's a lot of wineries out here. There a lot of them are going to go under in the next couple of years.
Why? I didn't wait. Why? Interesting. Why?
Yeah, because younger people aren't drinking wine.
Ah.
So they switch to these malt beverages, right? I don't even know that I don't drink them. So, but yeah, so I have a 24-year-old daughter. She hardly drinks wine, but she'll drink whatever those you get them in a can, right?
Right.
So, you buy a bottle of wine, it's $20. You get a 6-pack of these things, they're like 8, right? Or 6.
Mhm.
And so they rather have that than drink wine. And so you have a situation where the younger people are already starting to have an impact on economics. The other area too is that their hedge of choice isn't gold. Their hedge of choice is crypto.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and the other thing the young people do not consume television. Okay. They consume social media.
Yes.
And TikTok and Instagram are their fuel. And so, you have to get your point across in seconds to those people.
Mhm.
Because they're all thumbs, right?
Right.
Constantly active. And so I think that is underestimated in terms of impact. I think it's going to have a more of impact 4 or 5 years down the line when the baby boomers are drawing out the most money out of the system, when the young people are saying, hey, I'm the one suffering from this stuff. So,
Now, we also, how would you vote, or how would you? And by the way, don't adjust your. This is that Star Wars sound effects, which always gives people the illusion.
It's all my alerts going off. Sorry.
You hear that? This man lives in a constant world of alerts, minefield, wives interrupting. How he does this and not lose track, I have no idea. But how
I got multiple PCs and monitors up too. So go ahead.
How would you rate the president's team, Bessent and others, and Navarro and Lutnick? How are they doing in your estimation?
I think this is probably the most qualified economics team we probably had in a generation. So really smart guys. Yeah, I mean, look, Lutnick runs Cantor Fitzgerald. You have Bessent, who's running around with Soros when they were killing the game. So they just got some really sharp people in place. You look at Bobby Kennedy. He lives for this stuff. Tulsi Gabbard. She's a wise woman. And the ironic thing about every one of those people are Democrats, by the way. None of them are born and raised Republicans. So I think the whole country shifted too. So
does that matter anymore? Do you think? I mean, this is like a stupid question. Seriously, when it comes to what you're doing, because I always look at this as being a brutal black and white, kind of a hard nose. This is investment. This is economics. You have blinders on. Does it really matter, Mom? What your social ideology is versus this?
Well, I think the label matters less than what you believe in. So, look, if you're pro free speech, pro Second Amendment, pro United States, pro citizenship, that sounds like my father's Democratic generation, right?
Right.
The Republican Party and the Democratic Party have kind of both gone off the rails.
Right.
They basically say that the Republicans used to be, the Rockefeller guys, right? And the Democrats were the union guys. Now the Democrats are, I don't even know how you even describe them. I guess
Right.
really nihilist communist, right? And the Republican Party became the war party, not the war party. I forget that name they give those guys. Neocons. And people don't realize neocons is not really Republican. Those were
No.
Democrats. Those were Democrats that took the Republican Party, and then they became spendthrifts, and so now we have this situation where Trump, he's in the Republican Party because he couldn't get anywhere with the Democratic Party, but he basically you're the MAGA party or you're the neocon party or you're progressive now.
By the way, let me stop right now. What you just said is so brilliant. This is the idea. People love to change the not the etymology, but the names for things. We do it in diets all the time. Are you a vegetarian? You're vegetarian, carnivore? I'm keto. I'm paleo. People love to take basically something very simple. But you were so correct. What people forget to understand is that last time when 80 whatever million people voted for President Trump, they voted not for the Republicans. They voted for MAGA, if you will, for a shorthand. It was for him. Whether he can translate that later, whether the Republican Party picks up, I don't know. But this is a new world right now. That wine thing you said right now absolutely just floors me because when you look at young people, this is tomorrow. They're also not driving as much. The idea of buying homes and the American dream, it's a different world with different foci and different objectives. See, this is to me so interesting because you're always redirecting names and labels and the like. I find it the most interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, kids are into more experiences than things too. Like my daughter went to Vegas and they went to like 4 days of what's called camping concerts,
Yeah.
and that's more important to her than buying a new couch. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's that experience, then they can talk about forever. You don't talk about the couch. So she works for experiences, right? And now she's fortunate in the fact that she's building assets, because she has her father helping her, but if the other kids around her don't, and they don't seem to care. I think they've reached a point in their life that knowing now that it's going to be impossible for them to own an asset, and so unless we get a significant deflationary collapse, which is going to come, because who's going to buy my house? Who's going to buy your house, right? I mean, those people aren't laying around just waiting for us to go because they can't afford it. So these houses are going to take massive haircuts. And the other thing too, the capital stock is these homes are, up in rural New York or rural North Dakota or rural North Carolina. I just drove through North Carolina last week, and unless you're in a big city, these homes are being abandoned. So you're already starting to see.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, and but I also see the fact that we'll decentralize again with AI and people can just you literally can. I know this work from home, work for the in the office thing is become kind of a bit of a meme here, but you're going to be able to actually move your factory to a small town and operate quite effectively with some of the tools that are coming out. And
absolutely. I am telling you right now, there is not going to be any level of our societal input. Even people in the betting world, betting apps and betting and gambling in any event. I don't want to get, I find that the most fascinating, and then always talking to you. Now, Bob Kudla, bottom line is simply this. We have just awakened the sleeping giant and given it a terrible resolve, as Admiral Yamamoto would say, involving the potential investors in the world. They're listening right now, and they want to say, I love this guy. And this trade with Lionel.com sounds terrific. Tell us very simply, 1, 2, and 3, what do people do? How easy is it to get on board and to take advantage of the special deals when using Trade with Lionel or calling the particular number on your screen?
Yeah, it's tradeawithlionel.com or call the number you see right there, 1-800-949-1408. And then you can if you call us, let us know you came from Lionel so we can get you the proper program at the proper pricing. And,
Yes.
And once you sign up, then the very next day, you get access to our Discord room, you get access to our indicators, and you can take the trades I put out in the room every day. As simple as that. And then there's education videos associated with those indicators that you can then quickly get up to speed. And I tell people, if you're an experienced trader, a couple days to a couple weeks to, understand exactly what we're doing. If you're an inexperienced trader, you sit in a room and you listen to everybody. In a couple months, you're up to speed. But from day one, you're catching trades, and you don't have to know everything to make money.
And also, you said something very interesting. One of the best investments that I think a parent can give a kid now, rather than remember the old days, a savings bond. Buy your kid a save. It's nice. Then it matured, and that was it. But you're talking about building hard assets now, and maybe giving a teenager or a college student, maybe somebody, a view of what's going on, because this is not being taught in school. Nobody even knows what you're talking about, because you're able to merge everything from real estate to this, all into one huge package. And that's why Trade with Lionel is so critical. So tradewithlionel.com, tradewithlionel.com, or call 800-949-1408. And the response whenever we talk, people love to hear what you say, because it's not this, Jim Cramer screaming and yelling. It's always fact plus a little bit of opinion plus a little bit of political insight, which all meld together. I find it absolutely fascinating. We ought to do a show together on a regular basis. Take it on the road.
Yeah, we should. It's interesting. I love talking about this stuff, but you said that I did some training for our customers in January, and one of my customers and also one of my friends actually owns the building, and he goes, hey, if you want to conduct training, again, I like to invite all our kids to it. And when he says kids, you're ranging from 15 to 25, right? Mm-hmm. He said, and to teach them all things finance. My daughter said to me, half the crap I learned in high school, I wish they would have taught me how to open a bank account, pay my taxes, how to operate QuickBooks, Quicken and stuff like that. And I said, it's a great idea. So we may put some people together, and I could talk the basics of trading to people, and we easily could call in. We have banker friends, we have insurance friends, we have accounting friends, and they'd be happy to to spend an hour showing the kids. Obviously, their upside is to pitch their product, right? But we could probably put that together, and the kids will eat it up.
Absolutely.
We asked all the kids, would you be willing to spend a day learning all this stuff? And we make it interactive. I make it fun, and everybody said absolutely be in it. And we had a couple kids came with their parents to my last 2 training classes I just did. I just did one in Nashville too, and the kids were rapt. They were just like they didn't know this world existed. And we have kids now that are trying to work overtime so they can buy more of these high yield dividend products that are connected to Bitcoin out there, because they see that as a path. So, yeah, we should.
Well, it's brilliant. It's brilliant, because I'm telling you something. This is the ultimate in entertainment. Entertainment that benefits you. Something is interesting versus not just some recondite subject that has nothing to do with the real world. This is as important as possible. Well, Bob Kudla, as always, my friend, thank you so much. Tradewithlionel.com. Tradewithlionel.com. Go there. Don't even hesitate, or call 800-949-1408. Make sure you tell them Lionel sent you. I heard it on the Lionel show with Bob and Lionel, because you have special deals, special available products and benefits that only Lionel people get. This is not a song and dance. It's the truth. Bob Kudla, as usual, my friend, thank you so much. We'll do it again. Looking forward to our next venture, as we say.
Well, thank you.
All the best, my friend.